Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion, and we're here for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. And, again, it's strange to be doing this in March, but it feels good, especially after a big Wildcat win, 65-28 over the Carbondale Terriers. And, I know we talked before the game. We felt like Marion could be competitive in the game against Carbondale. I don't think anyone was expecting a 65-28 game.
No, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, people know with the old adage, don't you always expect to win? I mean, you always have the expectation of winning, but it's often the margin that is an unknown. You like to be optimistic and think we got a shot, and we can if we do this and that. And I would never have predicted that score. And maybe that's somewhat based on the game the previous year, but whatever it was, I mean, it's just we'll take it. I mean, it was I think your feeling about a win often comes from how your kids play. It's also about who you play. Did you beat a worthy opponent? And I still felt like they had a lot of good players on that field, and so it isn't just getting the win, which is awesome. I think we're just really glad we beat a good team, and I got off to a good start.
We obviously, what the offense did, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, but I don't want it to be overshadowed the performance the defense had, because I felt like for Marion to win the game Friday night, it had to be on the defense. And if you take a look at what the defense did, really the first string defense allowed one touchdown, and you had a couple special teams breakdowns, but overall the defense played a really, really good game.
Yeah, I agree, and I I think that may have been the most pleasant surprise of the ball game, was the fact that defense. Coach Denning, Coach Wimberly, and Coach Skeet did such a good job getting the kids ready, and they had a good game plan, and we tackled well. We were aggressive, and we held a couple of really good offensive weapons of Carbondale's. I don't want to say in check, but held them. And what it really came down to, I thought on the bus ride over, I said, this is going to come down to big plays. We got to prevent big plays because they beat us on big plays last year,
right?
And so I think they did a good job of keeping receivers in front of them and not letting the big plays. Their big plays came off special teams, and we had some kids a little overly aggressive on special teams, and teams with speed like Carbondale can make you pay for that. So we got to fix that. But other than that, I think the big plays were held in check, and that kind of resulted in a great performance by our defense.
We expect to see names like Tyler Seema, Ryan Fox, some of those kids. Names that you knew were going to do some things. Couple names that stood out to me: Brody Larson on the defensive side. Mason Gooch had a pretty good game defensively. Lucas Schrum. Yeah. Lucas was on both sides of the ball, and the athletic ability that we talked about after the game with Quentin Anthony was really good.
Yeah, 2 big picks, and I may have said this last week. I told several people, he's a guy that we try to pick on in practice and try to fool him, because he's hard to fool, with a gadget or a trick or a funky formation or something, and Q's always picking things up. He sees through things, and he's pretty savvy, and I thought he played a really good ball game. I thought one of the things that stood out to me was that young defensive line we talked about. There are 6 or 7 guys that rotate, and
some sophomores in there
some
too.
Sophomores. I think there are 3 sophomores in the group, and there are maybe 4 sophomores and I think a couple of juniors, and so that rotation continued throughout the night, and boy, they made some plays. They held their own, and I think they learned a lot. And I think as this spring season progresses, I hope they continue to get better, and then we'll carry that over into the fall.
Talk about that rotation a little bit, because it seemed like you had kids be out there for maybe 2 or 3 downs, and they would give it all, and they may be a little gassed, and they could come out, and someone else could go back in and play 2 or 3 downs, and you kept that defensive line fresh that way.
We did, and that's huge. And I think that the coaches I've talked to, and I feel the same way. It's been a difficult thing to gauge our conditioning, because we're doing it in a time that's not 98 degrees, and we're coming off basketball, so those kids don't need as much conditioning. But it's been strange to acclimate kids to football and to this weather. It's been unlike any other season. So I think a lot of us as coaches were worried about, do we have them ready? And I think those kind of rotations take the pressure off that. So you're not having to play a kid, so many snaps in a row. And we rotated running backs a lot. We had a lot of touches by running backs, rotated our receivers quite a bit. And we're getting kids experience, and we're keeping kids fresh. And I'm glad that we've got young kids that are able to step up and play in a game like that and contribute. So that's good.
We have to talk about the offense, and I think you have to, when you do that, talk about the game by Hunter Simmons. 392 passing yards. He only had one interception. Ran the ball pretty well, but we believe the 392 is a school record. And again, there was a lot of talk about Hunter and his abilities, but I think that's something that no one really could have projected going into that first game.
Yeah, he's, as I said last week, he's very intelligent. He is a great student academically. He's a great student of the game of football. He's got a great work ethic. He's shown excellent leadership for a guy that came into this school just in his senior year. But, I think those intangibles matter. Of course, he has a really good arm. He's very accurate. I got a quick release. What I like, too, is something a few of the Marion fans recognize. They said he's very poised in the pocket and very poised on the field. He doesn't get rattled. And I think, and let's give credit to our offensive line and our running backs who really worked hard on their pass protection leading up to that ball game. The fact that they kept Carbondale's defense off of him, and a defense that brings a lot of pressure, a lot of stunning. So I was real proud of that. That kept Hunter upright, kept him in the pocket for the most part. He had a couple of scrambles for big plays, which he's good at. He was good at that at Mount Vernon. But just a nice, solid performance, and only one ball I think he wishes he could take back. But he threw it well, and I'm proud of the kids who caught him. We had a lot of kids catch passes, and some of them weren't easy catches. We had some guys get rocked pretty good after making catches. And they hung on to the football, and Jake Bruce and Mason Gooch jump out at me as guys that weren't big players last year offensively and showed something. Tyler Seamum, nice catch or two. And, of course, Vince had a big night.
Yeah, that one catch by Tyler, obviously by watching the game, you could tell Hunter can throw a missile. But the one he put out there, and Tyler, I thought, well, he overthrew that by 5 yards, and Tyler ran under it and caught it in stride. And so he knows where those guys are going to be and what their ability is.
He does, and I think, they're getting some familiarity with each other, and I think that's really important. That the receivers and quarterbacks got to have that relational thing going on where they can get a sense of what the other's doing and where the cuts are going to be and the timing and so forth. And it's been a weird year to get that and to try to get that, but I think that was pretty strong. I think the other night how well the kids handled that.
You mentioned Vince, 9 catches, 199 yards. He had the touchdown that he had. He caught the ball, got sandwiched in the middle of the catch. He's catching it, one of those where most guys would have dropped it. Not only did he hang on to the ball, but he separated himself from the two guys and ran in for a touchdown. That was just an incredible play.
It really was, and Hunter put that ball in a very tight window, and he made a great catch, and he got rocked pretty good and kept his balance and scored. And, we talked about limiting Carbondale's big plays, and I think we had to make some big plays, and I think we had several of those, and some came off scrambles, some were calls, but proud of the running back by committee situation as well. We rotated a lot of backs. I think we played 5 running backs in the game, maybe 6, and they all got touches and they all contributed. And Chase Isbell moving from quarterback to fullback had a
pretty good there too.
Night.
Yeah.
He did. He had a good night.
I wanna bring this up because someone told me go to church with one of the students, and they said, I can't believe Vince played because he was on crutches earlier in the week.
He was.
So that to me is the sign of a player who to me it seems pretty special, not only being able to play but to have a standout game like that.
And this was one of those situations where he turned his ankle in some weird non-contact thing, and it happened early last week, and we just weren't sure. And then thank goodness it did hurt, and it did have some swelling, and the trainer looked at it, but it healed really quick. And he got some treatment, got some therapy, and got the ice on it, and he got back. And by Thursday, he said, I feel really good, and so I was optimistic. So I told him Friday at the walkthrough, we'll try to use you sparingly. And so, how many catches?
I only had 9. It was less than half the catches.
9 catches and 199 yards later, I used him sparingly. So So I mean but again, as we checked with him during the game, I kept saying, "You feel good, you feel good," and he said, "I feel great. It feels 100%." So we turned him loose.
Name some players who maybe surprised you a little bit. I'm sure we've talked about some of them, but first game of the year, odd season, playing football in the spring, people having to wait for their chance. Name some people who surprised you.
Jonas McNeely, playing linebacker. I mean, this is a young man, a senior, been waiting his turn, hoping to play, wanting to play, but was a backup for his first 2 varsity seasons and got his first start and played really well. Ryan Fox kind of backed up his brother Brendan last year in both positions, linebacker and H-back. Made some big blocks for us.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those goal line touchdowns, those goal line runs in our change of pace, Ryan Fox had a big block on those. So there's an example. Garrett Berenson, sophomore offensive lineman. First time he's played varsity football. Had a very good football game for his first season. Reese Roper, playing center.
Yeah.
Never started before on the offensive line. Played center, and as I say, Carbondale can be a very tough defensive team. So Reese Roper jumps out. Jake Bruce, not on defense but on offense, had a big night. So those names jump out at me. I think, as I said before, some of the guys played some last year, but those names really jump out at me. I think as guys that you mentioned, Brody, we mentioned Mason. Lucas Rum came in late with fresh legs and looked really good. And so he kind of came in late behind Devin and Chase Isbell, but Devin Markham. But, like I said, I told someone we came into the game with a lot of question marks. And the reason I think we won the game is because a lot of those question marks got answered.
Sure.
And more than I even anticipated, more than I could have expected. Now, the key, Petro, is can we do that this week and the following week? I mean, it's our goal that wasn't a one-night thing where everyone was in sync. I mean, I want to put a season together with those guys performing like that. And I'm confident they will. So it's back to work now and bring them back down to earth and get humble and start getting ready for a really good Cahokia team.
I think I want to talk about Cahokia in just a minute, but I think one of the things too you have to look at is being not how much you play, but when you play and being in the right circumstance. And you mentioned Devin Markham had only 21 yards rushing, but 3 of those rushes were for touchdowns. So
I agree, and I think Ryan Fox didn't have that many snaps on offense, but when he did, he had some very quality snaps. And Walker Fox is a kid that's had a great camp leading up to this and didn't get a lot of catches, but gave us some valuable time and gave Vince a break. And we had some young kids, as I said, up front, and then Talon Hance at tight end, giving Tyler Sema a spell. So, we've got some young guys that I think fans are going to hear their name this spring, and they're going to hear them again in the fall, and they're going to hear them again the next year, and that's good. And I do want to give a shout out to our JV who won a big game last night at home in their first game, and we think we've got some really good JV talent. And Coach Pauls and Coach Butler and Coach Wallace had them ready, and so I mean it was a good week of football for us, and now we wipe the slate clean and get back to work.
So you mentioned Cahokia, and just like everything else that's odd in COVID season, you play a Cahokia team that doesn't have a game yet. They had the first week off,
right.
So hard to really get information on them, but we know typically they're very athletic, and they've got some players that did some special things for them last year.
Man, they got some guys. I looked at the film. I got a couple of different films on them from last year, and I look at that film and I get the roster and we're thinking, did he graduate? Dang it, just like, because they've got some guys that can flat play. Like they got a tight end that's probably getting some D1 or may have got some D1 offers. So
Binford?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to bring a talent set here to our stadium that we won't see all year long. I mean, it's that many guys that are next level football players, and quarterback is back. They got a couple of linebackers that I wish were gone, but they're not. You say Binford, the tight end. I mean, so it's going to be a big challenge for us. But again, hopefully we can elevate once more and meet that challenge.
That game last year at Cahokia probably goes down as an instant classic right away.
Yeah, we scored late, 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. We scored with just a few seconds left and won the game and it was a big game at their place, and so they remember that. They're hungry to play their first ball game, so we know that they're going to get off that bus, man. They're going to be excited to play, and we got to shake off the accolades and all the stats we gathered against Carbondale, and I told them yesterday, I said that win was awesome. I'm glad we got to enjoy it, but there's not extra points on the board because you played well last Friday. We've got to start from scratch again and earn this next one, and it's going to be a battle.
Well, you couldn't ask for a better day to play it.
Yeah.
The forecast looks like sunshine and 72 on Saturday.
Yeah.
And not only do you have players who were hungry to play last year, but now you're going to have some fans who are hungry to watch football and haven't seen football in 17 months.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a great day to be in Wildcat Stadium.
I think so too. We're excited to play at home, and I think there's going to be, of course, a limited capacity, but I think we've got cheerleaders, and I think we got band, and I think we got dance, and we got parents.
It's going to be like a regular old home game, isn't it?
Gosh, it's been so long, so we hope to put on a good show.
All right, so it's Saturday at 2 o'clock here at Wildcat Stadium, the Wildcats and the Cahokia Comanches. Should be a fun time.
Can't wait.
All right, that's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. For Dateline Marion, I'm Tim Petrowich.